Hey friends, welcome back to the Mid.Life.Artist Podcast. My guest this week is Susie Garay, who is a poet and a creative mentor, a self-publisher. In fact, she just published a wonderful book of poetry that we'll be sharing with you, along with so much wonderful creative advice and talk about process and spirituality and creativity. It's just a really lovely conversation, and I can't wait for you all to listen. One thing is the sound was a little wonky for me this time, and I'm not exactly sure why. So I'm a little quieter, and she's a little louder. And all my finagling, I got them as matched as I could. So please forgive me there. It does not take away from the conversation and the wonderful advice and experience that Susie brings to us. So without further ado, here is Susie Garay. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Mid.Life.Artist Podcast. I am so excited to have Susie Garay.
Garay.
I knew I was saying one of the syllables wrong. Who I have followed and known online for years. She is a poet. She makes jewelry. She's an indie publisher, and we are here to talk about her art process. I'm so excited to have you, Susie. Welcome. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Thank you. So on Instagram, I am Susie Garay Writer, and that is where I post most things most often. And then I also have a Substack where you can follow and get some information, an Etsy shop, different things like that.
So if I remember correctly, did we kind of discover each other back when blogging was still a thing?
I think it was. Yes.
Yeah, back in those days. It's amazing how many wonderful artists I have seen and followed for years based on like blogging. I kind of miss it sometimes. Do you?
Me too.
It's just, everybody's going to get so used to me because I've said this with almost everybody I've talked to so far, but like, it just seemed like a better time on the internet. I'm sure there's still some of the negativity, but it just seems like it's steamrolled over the years. So I thought we would start back at the beginning, because when I first discovered you, you were already creating, right? Like at the time you were doing, I think, a little bit more jewelry, but you're also writing and sharing your poetry. Kind of take us back to how that started, how you started creating and writing and go from there.
Sure. So I have always been a person who wrote, like from the time I was a very small child. I have journals and journals and journals filled from when I was a kid. And so that has kind of been a through line through everything for all of those different things. And it was before I had children. I have always been somebody who really, really loved jewelry. And so I wanted to try silversmithing. I knew a lot of different silversmiths and all these different things. And so I dabbled for a little while, and I sold some stuff and had like a small studio set up. But I do not do that anymore. It didn't, torches didn't really mix with small children at a certain point. And then with writing, kind of the way that all happened. So I've been writing forever. I was an English major in college, did editing, stuff like that. And then I began writing actual poetry. And I decided to try to submit to some places. There's a million different online journals and like little places like that. And so it was fun. It's like you would submit and get things published, and some of them would even do a print edition. And I was kind of immersed in that world. And then a couple of my favorite places closed, and I was just so like sad and irritated about it, and it was just not a sustainable thing because it took a lot of time for those people. And so a friend of mine and I decided to start our own. We're like, why could we not start our own small publishing company? So we did. And it was first an online magazine kind of thing where it basically was a blog where we would just post stuff. And then eventually we started doing print editions as well, where we would do single author collections and also anthologies that would have, they were actually pretty cool books with full color, like lots of different art, lots of photography, short stories, poetry, all sorts of different things. And it was really fun. And so it was through that I realized, it's not actually that complicated to make a book and actually print one. So I now have 5 poetry collections, some of which I have self-published, some of which I went through other like micro press places. And I have feelings on the publishing world, but we won't go into that too much. But yeah, it's really, and so I started doing that, and I realized that it's so fun, and I actually really like self-publishing because I enjoy the process of book design and kind of the structure and the flow. I feel like makes a big difference in a poetry collection.
Yes,
and so I like to have a little bit more control over that, and like this way I can also put in photography, put in kind of do whatever I want.
And your publishing company is Blue Hour Publishing, right?
It's Blue Hour Press, and we, yeah, we both got busy and have not done much with it for a while, but I really hope to get back to it one day. We did, let's see, I think it was like 10 or 12 single author collections and 4 anthologies over, it's like 8 or 9, maybe 10 years, something like that. And then we, got jobs where she was really busy and I had more children. I now have 3 kids, and so it just wasn't, it wasn't going to be feasible for that stage of life, but hopefully we will get back to it.
And speaking of your poetry collections, I'm holding one right here. I was so honored to give a blurb on the back jacket, and Susie was nice enough to let me have a pre-read. This is called The Atlas of Small Things. It's beautiful. Speaking of like the flow, like she's got, of course, like when she talks about photography, you can see her beautiful photography along with her words. It's just, so a little backstory. You are in Oregon. You are in the Pacific Northwest. I also lived in Oregon for a while. When I was reading this, I just kept picturing the Oregon coast. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your inspiration and how you write poetry and where that comes from. It seems like nature is, for anybody who reads this, it seems like nature is a really strong inspiration, and kind of maybe talk about the connection with poetry and
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Nature is, I would say, my number one inspiration. I love being outside. I love Oregon. I love the trees and the woods and the ocean, for sure. So, and yeah, if you haven't been to the Oregon coast, it's a different, people say, oh, we're going to the beach. It's not like what some people would imagine the beach is. It's kind of rocky coast, and it's cold, and there's trees and all the windswept rocks, and it's a very beautiful place. But yeah,
it's not a beach where you like go hang out in your bikini.
No, and you're probably not going to do very much swimming. It's chilly.
No, the water, like at best, the water is probably 60 degrees.
Yeah.
You're going to be chilly.
Yeah, but yeah, it's beautiful. So that definitely is a huge source of inspiration for me. And I think also, I've always been a person who wanted to kind of find the beauty and the magic in the little tiny moments of life that we overlook a lot, because that's really what life is those little tiny moments. And so I've wanted to be able to find the really beautiful parts of that and kind of call it out for myself to notice and remember, and for other people to notice and remember. And also with this book, I would say I've gotten a little bit into, I've gotten a lot more into meditation and learning about Buddhism a little bit, and some of those practices. Sorry, my cats are distracting me over there, making noises. But they, and that has also been another big source of inspiration, because some of this stuff is from, like, I'll go on a meditation journey somewhere, where you're like seeing things. And so some of the poems are like almost straight out of that.
That honestly, you pick up on it. You absolutely pick up on it. When, in my quote, like the blurb I gave is they feel almost like prayers. So that really just leads me into, something I was going to ask about anyway, is kind of the link for you between creativity and spirituality, and however spirituality looks for you.
Yeah, I think that it is very, very related. I would just say they're for sure connected. And basically anything that makes, I think for me at least, it really unlocked a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, and that has been good for me to be able to write about when I just got kind of more acquainted with myself and my actual, what I actually want, like got better at actually feeling the feelings and not just shoving things down, like I think a lot of us have done or do in this society. And so I think that anything that helps you kind of process the emotions and actually be aware of yourself and more kind of presence, being where you are, less distraction, less numbing, all of those things, makes you a better creative person as well. I think it makes you happier in your life, makes you a better person, and also makes your art better and makes you a better creative person. And I think having a creative practice can help you dig into those things. If you are a person who likes creativity in general and you're interested in like self-reflection and that kind of stuff, it can definitely be a really great doorway into that world.
And so speaking of creative practice, as you mentioned, you're a mom. You've got, so they're preteen and younger.
Yes.
So you've got a busy life and a busy household and little ones. And a couple questions regarding it in that thing is like, when you say you have an art practice, like what does your art practice look like now with kiddos and responsibilities and all that versus maybe when you were younger? So we'll start there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely do meditations, and all of that would be at night once the kids are asleep. Half the time I'm next to a sleeping kid while doing like a meditation of some sort. And then for me, I would say art practice begins with journaling. That's definitely the most sustainable thing that I can do a lot. And even like, you know, those times when you are very in flow and you're getting inspiration and maybe you're out at the beach and something just comes to you. Like I have a Google Doc on my phone, so I can open it on my phone or my computer. And so I am constantly like typing little notes into my Google Doc that I will then later go back and look at and try to create something from. But like, because you always have your phone with you. So for me, that is a way to do it too. Like maybe I'm looking at a tide pool on the Oregon coast and there's beautiful things and I have some thoughts I don't want to forget. Like I can just really fast pull it out, type something up, and then later go back to do it, to like actually try to formulate something with structure and that makes sense. But it's just kind of, especially with children, it's got to be those little tiny snippets of time. And I even would include, like, if I'm painting with my 3-year-old, you know, she can be doing her stuff and I can, you know, actually try to paint a little bit or do things like that. So you just kind of take it where you can get it. Or, I mean, even a walk on the woods, I'll create a little like nature mandala with leaves and pine cones and whatever I can find. So it's really those little snippets of time. And I really like to let my kids see me doing it because I think there's a lot of value in that too for them to see that it's something that I value. Yeah.
So it's more natural. So what I'm hearing from you is it can't necessarily be super structured, or like maybe sometimes it's not a daily practice, even if you would want it to be. It's really, you had mentioned flow earlier, and it sounds like you're kind of relying on capturing those moments when they come up within the flow for you to use them. Would you say
For sure. And for me, it's also an important part of the process to go have the experiences outdoors, to have the little adventures where you're running around doing different things, because that's where the inspiration will probably come from. So it's like if I'm not getting out and doing those things, I'm just going to have less to write about in general. But yeah, it definitely has to be in those moments when a moment pops up, because there's just not, like if I said I'm going to do this every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, like half the time there's going to be 2 kids awake by then. So it's just not going to happen, you know. But
what I really love about that is, because I don't have a Google Doc, but I have a notes app on my phone. And what I love about that is I kind of feel like getting back to social media, sometimes I think the message is that the process has to be really photogenic and documented, and sort of the process itself has to be sort of this beautiful thing, when, I mean, the process is like, you never know when inspiration is going to hit or when you're going to have time, and we're all busy and older, and like, you know, I really love you confirming and affirming, like you've literally created this beautiful, look how thick this book is, full of poems that you captured in the moments as they came up, and you didn't, it sounds to me like you didn't worry if it was photogenic or the right time or this specific, or a specific time or a specific day or the specific structure. You just gathered them as you could.
Exactly. And I will be honest that the reason I was able to do a book this year is because my 2 oldest are in school, and then my youngest had preschool for 2 days a week. So because it's like you get all the inspiration and then I go home and actually, you know, write the poem, rearrange, like there might be something that I wrote 6 months ago and something that I wrote 2 days ago that fit together well. So it's like I have this big, huge, long thing, and it's like puzzle pieces, and you rearrange and make stuff, and then, so there is like the more practical legwork that happens afterwards, but that I did need some actual time for, child-free, actual sit-down time at a computer, but.
Totally fair. Totally fair. And you said, do you bring your kids with you whenever you can when you're out in nature?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier, like this book is really focusing kind of on the small things. Is that has that always been important to you, or do you think that's an influence of like kind of seeing through younger, smaller eyes? How have your kids maybe influenced how you think about art and writing?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's both. I think I have always been a person who tended to see, to like notice the little tiny things, the little tiny moments of beauty. I think that is how I see the world, but also it is a really great reminder to have kids, and like, going on a walk in the woods with a 3-year-old is a lot different than going on a walk in the woods by yourself or with older people, because it's just very slow, and you're going in circles and back and forth and looking at bugs and all those different kinds of things, and it's wonderful, and it really is great to get to kind of see the world through their eyes. Yeah, they say that when you have children, you're almost like reliving your own childhood at that age when the kid is that age. So like, yeah, it's interesting, but it's really a wonderful experience, and I think motherhood is a huge part of my writing as well. So I feel like that's in there a lot, kind of. It just changes the way that I think about the future and think about the planet, and just think about all sorts of different things, for sure.
Oh yeah, I can, and it does seem like, these prayers, it's like, it almost seems like as you're learning or praying or writing, you are, kind of imparting, you're kind of talking to somebody almost. Like I can imagine you talking to your daughter, as I'm reading these. This is just, getting back to flow is something that I'm really interested in, because for anybody who's ever experienced flow, it's like the most amazing feeling ever. And I know myself, as someone who does not have to feed a tiny human and keep them alive, it can still be kind of elusive, and it's not something that you can just necessarily fall into whenever you want. And so I'm kind of wondering about your relationship with flow and how that works for you, being a parent and working and having, responsibilities, and if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, and I know, so I worked for a long time, and then when COVID happened, I stayed home with my kids for a year just on leave, and then I ended up never going back to work because I had a third baby, and so now I'm a stay-at-home mom with the 3 kiddos, and so I definitely am aware that gives me a level of freedom, for sure, to like go out and have these experiences and be in nature and like, tend to a garden and just be outside, and like you said, kind of see things through a child's eyes and really slow down. And I think that there is a level of freedom that comes with that is harder to get when you're at a desk every day. Like, and so that's been a really kind of a beautiful stage of life that I feel like is fleeting. And because I know I'll eventually go back to a more normal job probably. But yeah, it's just really, for me, it's like you just have to surrender to those moments when they come, and not try to, because I've had stages in my life where I would try to create it myself, or I'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write every day at this time. And there is some wonderful stuff that can come from that. Like if you just sit down and start typing, it's a stream of consciousness, and like, lots of interesting stuff will come out, and that is a wonderful, beautiful practice too. But for me, if I try to force it like that, there's going to be a lot of pages of just nothing, so, which is not bad. I mean, that's a wonderful thing too, like morning pages. It's a beautiful way to do it. But and that's kind of what my journaling is, because I do try to, so every day I try to journal and I try to meditate, and with the journaling, a lot of the time I will feel like I have nothing to say, I have nothing that I want to write down. I don't want to do this at all. And maybe that's how I start. I'll just sit down and be like, I don't have anything to say. I don't want to write. I'm in a totally bad mood and this happened. And then you just start going, and sometimes it will really bring out beautiful things. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the next flow and inspiration are both, I think I think they have some similarities. I think they're different things. But I also, one of the things I think a lot about is my relationship with inspiration. Because for me, getting inspired by something or having some inspiration is like this much of it. And then like just scribbling and like trying things and playing around is like this much of it. And you never know when, at least for me, I never know when inspiration's going to hit. I would love to hear your thoughts, your relationship with inspiration, and also, has it changed as you've you've now been a creator in some form or fashion for a couple of decades? Like if you and I have been following each other since the blog days, that was at least a decade, if not longer.
more.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think it's like for the Mid.Life podcast, I think there's so much to be said for somebody who has had a little bit more life experience and just has been around longer. I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm going to be 45 this summer, and it's funny that like it really is true. You get to be in your 40s, and there's just a certain level of not caring what other people think as much, and not having these same expectations. It's like there's a lot of stuff that you just have realized doesn't really matter. And so so I think that is one thing that really, really helps. Having the life experience, being able to not care what other people think as much, because anytime you're an artist, there's going to be criticism. There's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be, I mean, even just thinking, oh, my mom is going to read this. Like, can I actually say this? Or, I mean, and there's a level of judgment that is going to come that you just kind of have to be ready for. And I think that the life experience and ability to have boundaries and not care about other people's judgments is a really, really helpful thing for me. And because inspiration is going to come from all of the life experiences that there have been in the past, and all of the things that you've seen, and all of the ways that you see the world, which as you age just get kind of more interesting and more colorful and all of that. And so I think all of that will show up in the art. I also know there's a big difference for me depending on what I'm filling my life with. And I love trashy TV shows, but if I'm doing nothing but trashy TV shows, I'm going to have less inspiration than if I'm also reading maybe a good book. Or so the things that I am filling my life with, filling my time with, are going to make a difference. Whatever that is for you. I mean, everybody has their stuff that they enjoy and that they're going to be inspired by. For me, it's like during the summer, it's my garden. I get really, really into, you guys have a garden. I feel like I've seen that.
Yes, very much. We have a farm. Well,
is it a farm?
It's a small farm. It's a micro farm, I guess, but we have a farm. And so, yes, a lot of work goes into that. And it's so, I mean, the smell of tomatoes, I think, is the best smell in the entire world. Like a warm tomato plant that's been sun warm is just like bottle it if I could.
I know that smell. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that shows up in your art too. Like,
absolutely.
Because it's what you're spending your time doing, and so it's just what is going to be in your sphere, in your energy field. So yeah, I feel like if you can find things that are going to feed you, that are going to make you feel inspired, and for every person that's a little bit different, like the things that you do that light you up, that make you feel joy and feel feel alive, feel in the moment, because I feel like a lot of people do really live thinking about the future, thinking about the past, being really worried about things. And for me, I think that's part of why I love the outdoors, is because those are the moments when I am, if I'm planting a tomato plant or whatever, like I'm probably not thinking about, I'm just thinking about right then. Like with your hands in the dirt, you're just a little bit more present. And same with, being in the woods or the Oregon coast or any of those things.
Absolutely.
It's easier to really, be where you are in those moments. But I think it's for each individual person, it's finding out what gives you joy, what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel those moments of, of real presence and real groundedness and like connection to the planet. And I think that is what's going to make the inspiration be able to start flowing. Because I think ultimately, I mean, a lot of it, everything is connected. And when you are feeling that connection to the world around you is when you are going to be able to receive more inspiration.
And I would love, do you feel like you needed to experiment, or there was kind of ebbs and flows in finding what worked for you? And when you're talking about like you need to find what fills you with joy and it's different for everybody, can you talk a little bit about your process there?
Sure, absolutely. It changes over time for sure. In my 20s, I'm a person who loves to be by myself. I love spending lots of time alone, and now I have 3 small children and I have 0 time alone. So it's like 3 small children and a husband, like 0 time alone. So right. It comes and goes with life circumstances for sure. And like, sorry, say the question one more time. Do you feel like you've had to experiment, or what has your process been to kind of find those things when you're talking about filling yourself up and finding those things that give you joy? I think you just kind of have to go do things and see what works and what doesn't work. Because for example, gardening. I now really love gardening. It's like a chunk of my time during this time of the year, a chunk of my life during this time of the year is really spent doing that. And it is a bit of a commitment, and, the time commitment and all the different things, weeding, blah, blah, blah. Because I won't use herbicide or any sort of stuff like that. But, so it's work. And I used to I thought it was silly. Like, I'd see my mom go do it when I was in high school, and I'd just kind of be like, whatever. And then I have an older sister who was really into gardening, and I was in my 20s and just go do what you want to do, but I had 0 interest. Like, flowers, whatever, flowers are nice, but like 0 interest. And now suddenly I'm in my 40s and I think it's the greatest thing in the world. And I get like so much joy from watching my lupin bloom and then being able to go gather seeds like after it all dries out and plant them for next year. Like, so much joy from that. And it would not have brought me joy 15 years ago. Right. 15 years ago, I would have thought that was the most boring thing in the world and like 0 interest in it. So I think that as far as finding it, it's just kind of trying to learn how to be in touch with yourself and learning how to figure out what is like society and what stuff have you been told that you were supposed to like and told that you were supposed to do versus what you actually want to do, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
And I think all of that just comes from kind of getting more acquainted with yourself, which just takes time. I think age helps with it. And I think, again, learning to not worry so much about the judgments of others and to just realize that each individual person is going to be different, and that's fine. And you just need to kind of get acquainted with your own self and even with your own kind of like body sensations. I feel like for me, it's almost visceral when something is really, when it's like a no, like you can kind of feel that no, this is not something I'm interested in. This is not something I want to do. So it's like just being connected to self, connected to your body, connected to all those things so that you can really follow your intuition about that stuff and know and follow your feelings and be able to actually be in touch with your feelings so that you can kind of follow that and know what you actually want.
I think that is such an important point to talk about. I remember, to your point, I have sometimes incredibly strong body reactions to things. Mm-hmm. And when I look back now, I remember a situation was in where every time I was around this person, I would get sick to my stomach, like literally like nauseous. And I dismissed that as like I cannot believe, and it ended up like not being a really great or healthy interaction or relationship with this person. And I, like, my body was screaming at me like there's something wrong. But because I was like, well, on the outside, like, this person isn't like doing anything crazy. They're just standing here talking. I ignored that. So I love that because I do think that our bodies talk to us and give us a ton of feedback on what's right for us and what isn't. So I love for saying that. And then I also wanted to point out, I love that because again, I think sometimes if you spend enough time on online, and we all do, is that everything looks so curated. I really love that you talked about that, like, you really have to just go out and try things and what's going to be different. What works for you now, like maybe even 6 months ago, was something that wouldn't work for, like, it just wasn't, for whatever reason, whatever space you were in, time of year, what a kid going through something maybe wasn't something that was filling you up, and maybe it does now. And it certainly probably changed from when you were in your 20s. I will say though, I'm just a few years older than you, and I still don't tell my mom about my Instagram because I curse. And I don't want her to read it and get mad at me.
Your mom is still your mom, like you did. Yeah, you.
So I think it's really brave of you that you're like, oh, well, my mom's gonna read this.
Well, and with Instagram, it's nice because, like, our cute little parents, just, parents and technology, there's only so much they can do. So sometimes they just can't even quite figure it out to see stuff. But
yes.
Yeah, but I mean, they do read my book. So I have to sometimes work through stuff there.
Very fair. And so you're at this stage of your life, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent, doing whatever you're doing. Is there something that you kind of look back when you were starting to be creative, though it sounds like, that's been part of your life for a long time, that you would maybe want to tell your younger self, or that you kind of, a lesson that you have since learned that maybe was something you remember really struggling with as a younger artist?
Oh, for sure. I mean, younger artist and just younger person. Like, I think I was very, very, I felt like there was this one specific way you were supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you should do it. And if you're not doing it this way, you are doing it wrong, and there is something wrong with you. And so I would try really hard to, like, fit into the box of, this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is the way it's supposed to look. This is the way it's supposed to feel. And so, like, even if I didn't feel the way I thought I was supposed to feel about something, there was so much, like, shame and self-judgment and all of this stuff that really took a long time to, like, sort of even admit was there and then work through so that you can kind of get past it. Because shame and self-judgment, I think, are two of the biggest creativity killers. You have to be able to have compassion for your mistakes, for your past versions of self, for all of these things that you've done. Because, we all have made lots of mistakes and lots of things that we wish we wouldn't have done. But I think as a young artist, I really would just say, try to not compare yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Like, even if there's another artist that you love, if there's another writer that you really, really love, yes, read their stuff, take inspiration, whatever, but don't try to be them. Don't try to mold yourself to fit with them, because all it's going to do is make you really frustrated and really unhappy, because it is not fun to create art when you are not being authentic to what you want to create, when you are not creating what is truly inside of you wanting to come out. If you're trying to pretend and trying to act, it becomes kind of a painful, awful process that I don't think feels good. And I think that's why a lot of artists stop. Like, a lot of people dabble or do stuff for a while and then can't keep going. And it's because they can't get over, like, that stage where you're trying to be somebody else and you can't be that person. So you feel like you're failing. And so you're just like, oh, forget it. It's like, you have to be able to accept who you are as an artist and what you want to create and how stuff is going to come through you, and kind of go with that. And there is definitely a level of surrender that is necessary, because you can't control it. And, like, maybe you'd really like to be more a certain way, or you'd really like to be a person who feels this way about something and wants to create this type of art, but you're just not. Like, and if you try to force it, it's just not going to work. So I think being able to, again, it comes back to the self, like, knowing yourself, knowing who you authentically are, and being able to accept that, not trying to change it, having compassion and love for that self, even if, there's always going to be things that you wish were a little bit different, maybe, but still having compassion and love. And then being able to, the thought just flew out of my brain. It'll come back to me.
I completely understand. Yes. Yeah. And we can always, like, if you think you can get it back, we can even, like, I can even cut this part out.
Okay. We'll see if it comes back to me. But Yeah, but yeah, you just have to, you really have to have that love and compassion, and also the surrender, because that's another thing with having kids and being a creative person. It's like I'm just not going to be able to do it now the way that I could do it even when I had one child. Like, it's a whole different situation. Like, 3 is not the same as 1. And if I was trying to hold myself to that same standard or have that same anything, all it's going to do is make me really, really frustrated, really, really angry, really bitter and resentful, and like all of these negative things. So that you also have to kind of be able to surrender to the life circumstances and to just the realities of who you are and what you want, and not try to pretend, because that's not going to bring anything good.
I think you just vocalized, I know for me, something that I internalized. I think you just vocalized something that has got to be such a common experience for artists, especially young artists, that I'm so appreciative that you talked about it, just because I know, yes, you look at these people and you want to emulate them because they, really speak to you in some way, and then you can't, and then you feel the shame, and you feel like there's something, and like it's this vicious cycle that this is made worse by you targeting yourself, instead of just taking a second to be like, why don't I just go for a walk or get some space and like see what comes up for me and what I want to create. And like, I mean, I know I'm almost 50, and these are things that I am really finally beginning to, like, grapple's the wrong word, but finally kind of get my arms around in a way that I can really look at it with some objectivity and maturity of, like, letting some of this stuff go, letting some of these expectations go. So I think that is such a really important point. And I love what you said about surrender, and about, like, I also love that you just voiced that sometimes we all get in a position where, like, I think that person looks so cool. I wish I was cool like that. That's just not my vibe. Like, I honestly, I wish I was the type of person. I have a friend who's so stylish, and I love her style. And I'm like, I cannot make myself care about clothes the way that she does. I appreciate it in her, but I just, like, I have 9 million graphic t-shirts, and like that, that's like my vibe. So thank you for that insight. Speaking of it's kind of along the same vein, but you and I both have kind of seen not just the internet, but social media, and this question is specifically about sharing creativity. So maybe not social media in general, but sharing creativity. And I just kind of wondered, like, what is your relationship with social media and sharing your art and creativity? What do you like about it, and what do you struggle with?
So I think that social media is a really amazing way to connect with people that there would be no way to connect with otherwise. And I think that is so valuable. And, like, especially, I kind of wish it was like the way social media was, I don't know, 8 years ago or 10 years ago or something, before it got quite how it is now, but maybe it'll one day go back to that. Because it is a way to connect with people that we would just otherwise have no way to connect with. And I think that can be really, really beautiful. And it's a way to get your art out to so many people, so many more than you could otherwise, and to see art, like, get inspiration and see other people's art that you never, ever, ever would have been able to. And so it really is a super valuable tool. And also, you just have to be able to, it's funny. So, like, I have just recently been going through, and, like, I used to follow, it was something crazy, like 3,000 people because it's like, I see something good, and it's been so many years. So now I'm like, there is so much junk I've been going through, and I've got it down to like 1,000 now, and I'm still going through because it takes a long time. But it's like, I just don't want to have all of this stuff on there. Like, I want to only have what is actually valuable to me and what I actually want to see. So I think that's part of it, is having the boundary to, like, curate your experience a little bit. Because, I mean, there really is a lot of great, valuable, inspiring, wonderful, supportive stuff. And there's also a lot of trash and a lot of meanness and a lot of, just unnecessary. It's just a waste of time sometimes too. So it's like, I think for an artist, that can be one thing. It is very easy to just, even if you're looking at valuable things, it can be a thing that you use in order to never get started, which is, a person just needs to know themselves. And if they are a person who does that, then maybe you have to have, like, certain times when you're not going to pick up your phone, or you're going to have social media be turned off or whatever, because it can be a big distraction. And then also, if you are a person who has trouble with comparison, that's obviously a huge issue. And you just have to remember that it's like what somebody is sharing there is not their whole actual life. It's not even necessarily the truth. It's like it's the truth for one little tiny snippet.
Yeah, literally the time it took for them to take that photograph.
It's like 1 second out of all the seconds of the day, or all the seconds of the week. And like, so again, it's just I think the self-compassion and self-acceptance, and not allowing yourself to fall into the judgment and shame, because like with ourselves, we see the whole messy picture. We see everything. We know all the stuff about ourselves that we wish was different. We know all the habits that we hate and wish that we could change and that we can't. And with everybody else, we don't know anything about their internal lives. Even somebody that's your very best friend, even like a spouse or a child that you live with, like there's so much internally going on with a person that you will never fully know, because we can't. That's just the way it works as people. And so to view, like, it's almost never about you. Like when somebody else is doing something, and somebody else is creating, when someone else is sharing something, when someone else makes a mean comment, like it's just almost never about you, even when you think that it is. And so especially with art and judgment and all of those things, just know that like whatever is going on with that other person, whatever they're choosing to share, it is about them and it's about their experience. And you can take whatever good inspiration you can take from it, and then let the rest go, and don't let it make you feel like that's the way you should be, or the shame and the judgment and all those things. Like, and I guess it's a boundary exercise, really. It's like, I think social media can be very, very valuable if you can have the boundaries set up around yourself, so that it can not be this huge negative, like soul-sucking thing that it can also be. So, and I mean,
like what you were saying earlier about how you're feeding yourself, right? Like if you're all you're doing is like scrolling through the Kardashians' social media,
right?
All you're doing is watching whatever reality TV show, then you're not going to feel very inspired or connected, because you're not feeding yourself with things that allow for much of a connection. Right?
Yeah. The inputs, exactly. The inputs have to be beautiful. And like if you're putting in trash, like you're not going to have super beautiful things come out, probably.
Oh my God, I love that. We need to put that on a t-shirt. The inputs have to be beautiful. Like, that is wonderful. I love that. Speaking of non-beautiful inputs, this is something I've been asking everybody. And the way I'm wording this question, for me, I have been really enjoying the answers so much. And it is not what is the best piece of advice you've gotten, but what is a garbage piece of advice that you've gotten over the years? Because I, especially as women, I think we internalize a whole bunch. And I think we get a whole bunch of unwelcome, unnecessary, unhelpful feedback that just gets like, so if you can think of any that you would like to share.
Oh goodness. I feel like, it's so funny. I've gone through stages where like I've taken an Instagram marketing class and like tried to do the thing you're supposed to do, where like, and you're supposed to go get professional photos taken and like look a certain way and use a filter on all your pictures. You know what I mean? And make it all like, so like anything.
I probably did the same class.
Thing like that, and like there's nothing wrong with doing that if that makes you happy, and there's nothing wrong with doing that if you like the way it looks and you want to do it that way. But it's like, again, it was like one of those things where I felt like I am not going to be successful. I'm not going to ever get what I want until I can do this thing the way this other person is telling me to do it, because they know more than I do, and I'm wrong, and I'm wrong, they're right. And I have to do it. I have to do what they're telling me because they know what's going on and I don't. And like, they do know more about social media marketing than I do, for sure. But to think, I guess the piece of advice would be to listen to somebody else about when something doesn't feel good, when you're doing something and you know that it's just not going to work for you and it feels bad and you're not enjoying it, like, don't do it. Don't try to shove yourself into that little box. Like, it's just, because even if it works for them, even if that person got 1 million followers and has had lots and lots of success, if it feels bad for you, it is not going to work for you. Like, It's just not. So like, even if it's good advice for some people, if something feels bad to you, I guess that would be, I'm turning it into good advice, but if something feels
No,
bad
by
to
all
you,
means.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, even
Yeah.
when it's something that's supposed to be good. I mean, even with like exercise or something, like just because someone else is a runner, if you hate running and think that it's torture,
Agreed.
don't try to go be a runner. Like, it's just not going to
Agreed.
work. You're not going to do it. So,
Right. And I am a runner, and I've had people come up to me and ask me like, I don't like running. How do I get into running? And I'm like, well, then you
do
don't.
something
I mean,
else.
if you don't like, but if you love dance or yoga, or like, if the question is like, how do I get more activity? Maybe we could brainstorm some ideas. But like,
Mhm.
I would never tell somebody like, oh, well, just get out there until. Why? Why? Life is so short. Why go do something that makes you miserable?
Right.
Because there's
Well,
enough that make us miserable without us doing it to ourselves.
and I don't know when it was, but at some point, and I remember looking at stuff of yours online and being like, oh man, I wish that I could go be a trail runner like that and like go to these places where she goes and like do all this stuff. But it's like, I'm just not. So,
You also, even with one child or two times, even if
yeah,
there's less children than the three you have now, there's still responsibilities that,
right.
again, I have a human being that I'm responsible for. So it's really
Hmm.
easy for me to go wandering around.
Hmm.
And I could also tell you so many stories that were like, that picture was pretty, but that experience was
Terrible.
terrible.
And I also love your like terrible snacks that you're always eating like the worst possible junk food. Like when you're,
100%.
I love it.
Because I'll tell you this, piece of advice, if it's people out there, if you do want to be a runner or a hiker or anything,
Hmm.
fiber is not your friend when you're in the outdoors. Okay, lots of like fake food, lots of like simple sugar,
That makes sense. You need the energy kick, right?
or salty. Like, don't go for healthy unless you're
Yep.
prepared to have an experience in the woods.
That you may not want to have. Yeah. That is good advice right there.
So, thank you for this conversation. I think there were so many good nuggets, and I think you just really touched. I really appreciate. One of the things I really appreciate is I'll back up a little bit and say, like, I remember a long time ago when you were talking about having judgment towards yourself for your art. I would get really discouraged when the art was in sort of the messy stage, right? Like when it's
Mhm.
kind of muddled and I was on, I don't even remember the artist. I wish I could remember the artist. And the artist was, like posted something and said something about like, well, it's in the ugly stage right now, and then blah, blah, blah. And that one sentence meant so much to me because she wasn't trying to make a lesson out of it. She
Mhm.
wasn't trying to like make some grand statement. It was just like, oh, this is just part of the process. So here's this successful artist who is just matter of factly saying, look, this is just part of the process. And that is what I feel, have come across with the way you're speaking. Is like, look, this is just part of the process. You've touched on so many things that I know for me have been part of my process, or things I've struggled with or thought about or judged myself for. And I really appreciate like the candor and the compassion that you have just really talked about them as just like, this is just, you're not a bad person or a bad artist or failing or anything. Like, this is just it. So I really appreciate that. And thank
Yeah,
you
of course.
for sharing your time.
This has been so fun. Thank you for having me.
I've been thrilled about it. And I just want to remind everybody, Atlas of Small Things, this beautiful little book by Susie Garay. And I do also want to say Susie is Susie, not Suzie. I know there's a couple of different spellings, as somebody who gets their name spelled a lot of different ways.
I'm sure.
And I just thank you, Susie, for coming along. Remind everybody where they can find you again.
So I'm on Instagram as Susie Garay Writer, and I have an Etsy shop and a Substack. And I was also going to tell you real quick, I'm actually just about to launch this thing where I'm basically going to be doing like intuitive creative guidance for artists who are struggling in some way. So it's basically like a Zoom session or something where you can just talk through whatever is happening with you. And it can be as like practical stuff for writers, like because I've done the editing and publishing and book design and all that, or it can be the more if you have a block or it can be the more that kind of emotional stuff too. So I am kind of getting that going, but I'm really excited about that too, because I really love helping artists kind of figure out what it is that they want to do and to kind of get over that shame piece. And I think that one of the most frustrating things in life in general, one of the things that brings the most unhappiness in life in general, is just not being able to accept the reality of things when there are things that can't be changed. And there's a lot of things in life that can't be changed. And as an artist too, it's like if you're trying to make something be something that it's not, it's just going to bring you nothing good. It's going to bring frustration and unhappiness in your life and in your art if you are trying to not let a thing be what it is, what it needs to be.
So in other words, people, more amazing, wonderful, compassionate, insightful advice, just like you've heard for this whole almost an hour, is what I'm hearing, is what you will be able to share with people. Do you have like an approximate time frame when you think you'll be sharing this out to the world?
So I do actually have it listed on my Etsy shop now, if people wanted to go for it, but I'm still working out a few of the bugs, but I mean, probably just the next couple weeks I'll have it ready to really go.
So Susie Garay, Garay writer on Instagram. You guys need to be following her so that you can be seeing this stuff. Susie, thank you again for joining me. Everybody, thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
Thanks so much.